Hi everyone, welcome to my second One Piece theory video. Today we're going to be discussing possible allies for the future of Wano arc. We're going to start with Hawkins, because he is the one we all most suspect will happen. It just is a matter of the situation that has to arise for him to join Luffy and everyone else in fighting Kaido. Now, we know Hawkins only ever joined Kaido out of self-preservation. He saw that there was no way of beating Kaido or even really surviving fighting him, so he joined. In that, Hawkins always follows the cards. He sees the probability of certain things happening and places his bets accordingly. So if there arises a situations of it getting more and more probable that Kaido will fall and Luffy will win, I could easily see Hawkins cashing in his chips with Luffy and joining it. But I think actually more interesting would be if he is so amazed by Luffy's tenacity, his willingness to go on, to fight against the odds, that Hawkins eventually discards the cards. He goes against them and joins Luffy because he is just so amazed. I think it would say a lot about Luffy's character, and I think it would be a really cool moment for Hawkins. Next we're going to talk about Ulti and Page 1. This is mostly a personal one. I love both those characters, and I think their possible dynamics with the Straw Hats could be really, really hilarious. Just because they have the same chaotic dumbass energy that most of the Straw Hats and their allies do. But Oda has also put in a lot of work to making sure these characters are endearing. Everything about Ulti is hilarious. Her dynamic with Page 1 is great. And even Page 1, when he gets angry that he is called a brat by I think Who's Who, that all sets them up as being very fun, very likable characters, despite the fact they are technically antagonists. And when Oda has done this in the past, specifically endeared us to characters who are on the villain side, they do typically end up helping in some way. Bonchan, obviously, being kind of the oldest example, but in Dressrosa we had Baby Five and Senor Pink, who Baby Five obviously did eventually leave the Don Quixote pirates and join Luffy's side by marrying Sai, very adorably. But even Senor Pink, he took that blow from Frankie. He respected him enough that he let him go on. And of course we do learn so much about those characters that we grow to love them. Even in Whole Cake Island with Katakuri, he doesn't necessarily help the Straw Hats, but he does sort of let Luffy win. He respects Luffy, and he seems happy that they get away in the end. Then we have Sazaki, and this is mostly based on the theory that he is Kokoro's son. If you don't know this theory, quick rundown is that Kokoro had a son with a human man who became a pirate and eventually had a child of his own, Chimene. And the theory arises is that these two do have a lot of similarities. They have similar hair colors, greenish. The ages of Chimene, him being Chimene's son, and then him possibly being Kokoro's son, and then being Chimene's father, do match up if you check. They're both very clearly heavy drinkers. They're almost always seen with a bottle of alcohol. Sazaki does kind of look Fishman-esque with his teeth. And then they even kind of wear similar hats. Kokoro wears the conductor's hat, and Sazaki wears a kind of military-esque hat. I don't know what it's called. But if this does end up being true, it could create an interesting dynamic with Frankie, if Frankie ends up being the one he fights. And I do think that's likely. So imagine a situation where they're fighting, Frankie lays a blow on him, he kind of rolls off, and a locket falls off. That's kind of usually how these sort of reveals happen. Frankie picks it up, and inside he sees a picture of Kokoro and Chimene. And he's like, "Why do you have a picture of these two?" And Sazaki's like, "Give it back, that's my family." And Frankie's like, "You're old lady Kokoro's son? She'd be horrified at you." And then Sazaki kind of joins their side because he doesn't want his mom to be angry with him, and Frankie would kind of be his brother, because Kokoro was sort of the maternal figure in Frankie's life. So if this is true, that could just end up happening. There is sort of a theme of family in Wano, and I think that could be a really interesting connection to one of the series' best arcs. There's also Sazaki's connection with Denjiro or Kirishiro, or more correctly, Kirishiro. They seemed, Sazaki even called Kirishiro a friend. He seemed to legitimately be upset when Denjiro turned out to be Denjiro and betrayed him. But interestingly, it is interesting to me that Denjiro does not kill Sazaki. He just kind of ties him up. When you'd think he'd use the element of surprise to take out one of the Tobiropo, because they were one of Kaido's strongest fighters. It would only make sense to get that one out of the way when possible, but it doesn't. He ties him up. So there may be more fondness for Sazaki on Denjiro's side than he is willing to admit, and I think that could be interesting when they meet each other again on the battlefield. The next is Black Maria. We still don't know much about Black Maria. We don't even know her devil fruit, though she does likely have one. So there's been a lot of speculation about who she is, especially since, unlike some of the other Tobiropo, her horns seem to be genuine. Like, if you look at the cover art for the latest volume, I believe, they actually do seem to be part of her body. So unless there's some very specific type of cosmetic surgery available on Onigashima, I do think that they are real. And that creates an interesting question of, is she related to Kaido in some way? We do know some humans just have horns, but it could also be more than that. For a while there was the thought that maybe she was Yamato's mother, but then the official ages came out and she's only 29, so that seems unlikely. Mostly because even the lowball estimates of Yamato's age put Yamato at about 23. But that doesn't mean they aren't related. She could be Yamato's cousin, she could be her aunt. Anything could be possible, really. But it does create. But if they do have a connection, like maybe they're just friends from a very long age. Maybe Kaido specifically brought Black Maria into the Beast Pirates at a young age to be his child's playmate, attendant. Who knows? But if she does have a connection to Yamato, she might side with Yamato over Kaido when it comes with. She also does seem to have a bit more sympathy. She's kind of sad for Momo when she sees him all beat up. She kind of like puts him in her lap to comfort him. And that does kind of show that she is more gentle, more empathetic than the rest of the Beast Pirates, if possible. Again, I just really want to know more about Black Maria, because she has such a great design. Next is Who's Who. I've seen this one floating around, but I don't think there's much to it. The main one is that he's very cat-themed, and cats don't really have loyalty. Or at least that's kind of the stereotype. They kind of do their own thing, they look after their own self-interest, and we do know that Who's Who wants to get higher in the Beast Pirates. He wants to take out Queen specifically, so he might use this as a chance to do so. But again, I don't really think this is a big possibility, because he did just team up with Queen to go after Drake. So I don't think there's much to this theory. Speaking of Queen, he's actually Who's Next, but again, I don't think there's much to this theory. Mostly people point out that he's very likable, he's kind of jovial, he's pretty funny, and like I said, back with Ulti and Page 1, likable characters are slightly more likely to help, but also not really. Plenty of the Baroque works and the CP9 were likable in their own way. But I don't think this is going to happen. The only thing I could maybe see is he had such a thing for Hiyori, or rather her persona, that if she shows up and she's like, hey, Orochi sucks, he ordered me killed, let's fuck him over, Queen might be like, yes, let's do that, because I hate that guy too. Everyone hates him. But also, much like Who's Who, I don't think there's much to this theory. There's also, want to briefly touch on the theory that Jack could help. The main part of this just being that Jack is the same age as Yamato, so again, like Black Maria, they might have a connection from childhood. But Jack seems very loyal to Kaido, and Kaido seems to have a soft spot for Jack, so I don't see that happening. This last one is Orochi from just some people, and I don't think this is a case. I think this is a big fat no. I don't want Orochi to join the good guy's side, nor could I see them ever accepting it, but I do think we could see a situation where he grows a head back, just, again, I think that's what most of us assume will happen, that he's not fully dead, he just lost a head and can grow a new one. But, and I could see him being the cowardly, sniveling, pathetic snake that he is, going to the good guys, and he's like, I will join you! And then someone just come and cut off that head, too. I think that could be a really hilarious running gag, is if whenever he joins, whenever he grows a head back, someone else immediately comes and cuts it off again. I could see that Oda stretching that through the rest of Wano quite hilariously, because no one wants Orochi. No one likes Orochi. When Kaido decapitated him, I almost expected Kaido to turn to the reader and be like, yeah, I hated him too. But I could see that as a running gag going forward until we get to the last head, and that be like a major moment. Finally, I want to briefly touch on two characters who are kind of on the Straw Hat side, but for different reasons, and it's not like true loyalty. That is X-Drake and Kid. Now with X-Drake, we know he's joining Luffy's side, both on the word of Kobe, who, you know, talks endlessly, it seems, by Drake's appearance in the flashback. It's just like, oh my god, I get one day a year I can talk to other Marines and I have to listen to all of this. And lack of any better options. But I think it would be interesting if through Wano he does come to truly believe in Luffy. Like, this is someone who does really care. And even if he's not out to be a hero, he is someone who can help the world. And don't forget that X-Drake also has a connection to Law through Khorasan. Now, all the way back in that Law's flashback, X-Drake was the son of the man who had the op fruit. And that meant his father was very abusive to him. We see X-Drake as a teenager, 19, and he's just very beat up, very submissive looking. But through the actions of Khorasan and Doflamingo, Drake is able to escape, and he gets picked up by Suru, and that's how he ends up joining the Navy, or the Marines. I'm sorry, the 4Kids dub seeped into my mind real quick. But I could see that if he knows the situation, I assume he does, that could be something that has really affected him. That could be part of the reason why he saved Law through that connection, and I could even see that being a really kind of sweet moment. When Law asks him, like, why did you help me? And Drake says to him, all those years ago, you were not the only young man Rocinante saved. That could be a really sweet moment. But I think through the actions of Wano, Drake will also come to truly believe in Luffy and the things he could do. And even if at the end of the story he might end up genuinely betraying the world government and the Marines to help Luffy. Again, we don't really know what Sword's intentions are. We assume it's to take down the corruption within the world government, but again, who knows? The last is Kid, and this comes from, and Kid is on our side tentatively. He hates Kaido too, mostly because what he did to Killer. And that is kind of the crux of this theory of mine. One of the things I think will happen at the end of Wano is Chopper, probably with some help from Law, will heal the people affected by just the bad smile, the bad fake devil fruits. So like Toko and her village and Killer, either by creating some sort of counter agent, or Law could use his powers to get that out of their system. And I think if they do that, if they do heal Killer, Kid might be in his own way kind of indebted to him. He'd be kind of annoyed by it, but we know Killer is very important to Kid. So them helping Kid will definitely ingratiate the Straw Hats to Kid. It could be like a situation where he's like, we're still not friends, but I owe you a solid for this. And again, I think it could be a good moment is after that happens and, Killer is able to stop laughing. Kid could be like, just very genuinely say thank you. And, you know, we like Kid. He's kind of a sucky person, but who isn't in One Piece? Lots of people aren't, but you know what I'm saying. And to see him very genuinely and very sweetly say thank you to the Straw Hats, I think would definitely melt a couple of hearts. Alright, that's the end of this theory. Like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me what you think. Who could end up being a Straw Hat ally? Who could turn against the Straw Hats? There's an interesting thought. Tune in later this week for my live reaction of the upcoming chapter, and check back with me next week for my video on why Kaido may have been going to Marineford. Bye!